everybody saying, we want the funk. We gotta have that funk. We kick it old school, we think we're so cool. We take it back to the past, we go and act a fool. Up jumps the middle finger, make my Jaeger just a little.
Suppose the fanatical view. I am your host as the technical difficulties strike. I'm your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio. Welcome back to live television.
And we're at our new time slot.
At our new time slot, 6:30 to 7. We had a taped show air in the new time slot last week. We hope you enjoyed that as we make our way back into your hearts and your homes and your TV sets. Here on Sports Buzz on this August 28th, almost September.
Yeah.
Summer fading away, although
Starting to see leaves falling already.
Wow, and we go back to the opening credits once again. We have
a new director in
help in
the
the studio, and they are taking over.
Yes, we have two kids are in the my two kids.
Connor Faco and Jenna Faco in there, helping our man Mike Toohey in the studio. Last week went smoothly.
Yeah.
This week off to a little rough start.
Yeah, I guess
Rein him in, Mike. What's happening? Anyways, we are live, and of course you can hear my man Bob Braw Jr. Here.
Yes, I also have my fiance in there working too.
Everybody's working. It's a family affair. You know? We're here until 7 o'clock, so, and there we see some nice photos of Bob and Connor. We don't have any of Jenna tonight. We'll get her next week, perhaps. And the phone lines are open. Since we are live, we could actually take calls. 203-792-4101 is the number if you want to call. 203-792-4101. Of course, Bob's show, Spotlight On, airs Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock, Wednesdays at 12. You covering any of the local musical happenings that have been taking place?
I've been down to Bethel doing a lot of tapings down there, concerts down there.
They got the summer series going on.
Right.
Very nice, and the weather's been pretty good for that.
We haven't had a bad one yet.
Yeah, real good. And Mike Toohey, of course, his show, Expose Cinemas, Friday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 1, I believe. This Friday night, he has his interview with our former evil director, Mr. Kevin Gallagher. He was in here chatting away. Be forewarned, that is an hour-long show, people.
Yeah. So if you can't fast forward,
if you feel like sitting through an hour of Kevin and Mike chatting away, actually it was a very good show. They covered a lot of topics. So Friday nights at 9 o'clock. All right, we're here, and let's get into some baseball, Bob, because it is coming down. The less than 40 games to go. Yankees finished their 3-game series in Detroit this afternoon, and they came up on the short end of the stick, 3-2. Dropped the rubber game. They were looking to take 2 out of 3 from Detroit and continue their hot stretch.
But
they had won. Yeah, they had won 6 out of their last 7. They swept the White Sox this past weekend in New York. They took that last game after dropping the first 2 to Houston. They had a makeup game in Kansas City that they won. So all of a sudden they were on a little hot streak, won 5 in a row, 6 of 7. But they dropped today's game 3-2. Tie game in the 9th. And Sean Kelly on the mound, runner at first base. And Tigers come up and they drill a shot to the wall that Ichiro had trouble handling. These early afternoon games can sometimes deal with a sunny right field, and he had the shade coming in his eyes out by the wall, but the sun in his eyes as he was backpedaling. Could not come up with the catch as it banged off the wall, and the Tigers scored the game-winning run on that walk-off double. Sean Kelly proceeds to show Ichiro up, Bob.
Ooh.
Very uncool, if you asked me.
That's not very nice.
Throwing his mitt down in disgust at the lack of ability by Ichiro to get to this ball. He will get chewed out, I'm sure, as his teammates going into the dugout, into the clubhouse will say, what are you doing? You cannot show up your teammate like that. How many times does your defense, your offense bail out pitchers when they don't make that one play for you? You cannot show them up like that. That was really not good, especially with the Yankees having played well and starting to feel good about themselves lately. And especially after, how about this last night? Tigers made that trade for David Price. They did not expect him to do what he did last night.
Right.
9 straight hits. He could not get out of the 3rd inning. David Price for the Tigers. And they scored 8 runs in the 3rd, the Yankees did, en route to an 8-4 victory in that middle game of that series to get back on track after they had lost the first game, ending their 5-game winning streak. So David Price and the Tigers pull even with Seattle at 72-60 with the win today, this afternoon, in that second wild card spot. I got to take a look at Seattle this weekend, and as they swept the Red Sox, yipes, not good. Cano looks pretty good. He's making a run for the batting title. This was the thing that I found interesting. It was a 3-team trade that sent Austin Jackson from Detroit to Seattle. And much like we've seen Oakland struggle after they sent their cleanup hitter to Boston, Yoenis Cespedes, going for big pitching and sacrificing your offensive balance has not really worked out that great, as Detroit and Oakland have struggled specifically with their offense since these trades, as we see Price right here getting taken out in the 3rd inning last night. Last week he was a tough luck loser. How about that one-hitter, 1-0 loss to his former team, Tampa Bay? That could not have felt good for David Price. Last night, not so much, as he gave up all the runs, couldn't get out of the 3rd inning. 9 straight hits.
I know.
Ugly. So, buyer beware when you make the big move to go for pitching. Usually when this happens, it's these minor leaguers that get sent in these deals, prospects to the other teams.
They get sent off to, you never know
but
where.
Both Detroit and Oakland parting ways with integral parts of their offense. Austin Jackson is his numbers aren't great this year, but
he's a good defensive player.
Good defensive player. Also has speed and versatility for the Tigers in that lineup. If he can get on base, he can steal bases. And we know, when was the last time you saw, in the case of Oakland, a pennant? They had the best record in baseball. And they traded away their cleanup hitter, Cespedes, who's been very good for the Red Sox, actually. Looking pretty good. Red Sox will have some options next year with what they try to do as they reshape this team. They did also get that Cuban defector, Castillo, so they have some options. Craig they got from St. Louis as well. St. Louis, another team that got rid of an integral part of their offense for John Lackey. So interesting the way teams are going about these pennant-driving trades this year, and whether or not they are actually working. Oakland now is behind Anaheim, who has the best record in baseball, 79-53. Oakland at 78-54. They lost 2 out of 3 to Angels this weekend. They still have 7 more games head up with them, so they can make up that ground themselves if they want to. But we'll see how it goes. If they do not get the division title, they got to play that 1-game playoff against maybe Detroit or maybe Seattle. If they have to play a 1-game playoff against Seattle, they're going to have to go up against King Felix.
Right.
And, John Lester out there in Oakland, his days might be short-lived as he's a free agent at the end of the offseason. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out.
And the one thing that still gets me is now it was bad enough having 1 wild card. Now we have to have 2.
I'm not a fan myself of the 2 wild cards. I think last year they said it brought more attention. They say it's for putting more emphasis on winning your division.
But it slows down the season more.
Seattle is hot on their heels. Oakland and Anaheim are right there battling head to head. So, they would be fighting it out anyways. It's keeping teams like the Yankees at 69-63 alive for that second wild card when they would have no chance of catching a 78-54 Oakland team for the wild card if this was the case. They'd be 9 games out, 11 games out, as a matter of fact. So, it's keeping these, also-ran teams in it. Cleveland at 67-64. Is only 4 back of Seattle.
Right.
So, they're kind of still in the mix. Toronto, they're fading fast, but 67 and 66, hoping against hope that they can do it. You know, and then it's allowing Kansas City the fallback plan if they do not hold off Detroit.
Right.
And again, it's also allowing Detroit a team, instead of saying, all right, well, we've blown the division, we can now go for that second wild card.
Right.
You know, they've let Kansas City catch them and pass them 2 games behind them, you know, and they could say, well, we just have to catch Seattle for the second wild card. So I don't know. I don't like it myself personally. But it is going to allow the Yankees a chance to stick around in this wild card race, 3 behind Seattle and Detroit. And if Kansas City were to stumble, they'd be right behind them. You know, as far as the schedule goes, Yankees are basically now going to be playing almost entirely the American League East. They do get 3 games with the Royals. So they'll be at Toronto this weekend, Labor Day weekend. They come home for the Red Sox and Royals and Rays. They get a nice, nice 9-game homestand late here in September. Yankees always getting those scheduling quirks or breaks, as it were. Then they're at Orioles and Rays. Come back home for the Jays and Orioles. They got 10 games still with the Orioles. And then finish at Boston. So it'll be interesting to see. We know Baltimore at 75 and 56, even though they were just swept by the Cubs, still pretty comfortable, 7-game lead.
Bucks Birds are doing very well.
Bucks Birds are flying high right now. We're not sure what was going out there in the Windy City this weekend, but they still maintain a 7-game lead over the Yankees, so I'd say they're pretty safe, but they do have those 10 games, so you have to keep that in mind. We mentioned already out west, Angels 79 and 53, Oakland 78 and 54. I did want to talk about some minor league stuff before we go National League, since we were just mentioning the Red Sox. We know Bethel High former graduate and UConn pitcher Matt Barnes was drafted by the Red Sox last year, had an okay minor league season last year. This year, he is on a tear, Bob, for the Paul Sox.
He's doing a very good.
As they are making a late season playoff push themselves. And he has won 3 straight games, won again last night up in Buffalo, a 6-2 victory where he went 7 1/3 innings, and he's won his last 3. And over his last 5 games, Bob, 34 2/3 innings, he's only allowed 5 combined runs in his last 5 games, as he's making a push for the Paul Sox to make the independent or the AAA playoffs there. So good for Matt Barnes and what he's doing. And then also I noticed Bethel High. This was a story that has been a little bit unnoticed. I did not know this was going down until the last couple of weeks. 2011 graduate Zach Albin of Bethel High School was a 20th round pick for the Orioles. And he was down in the Gulf Coast League, and he was just recently promoted to Single A in the Penn League for Baltimore, the New York Ironbirds. Are we going to the end credits this quick? Are we getting the hook, Bob?
Are we getting the hook already?
Maybe. Who's in charge of pictures? Connor's in charge of audio. Mike's in charge of pictures. What is happening? All right, Zach Albin, promoted Class A, made his debut last night for the Penn League. 3 shutout innings, allowing only 1 hit. He has, including in his Gulf Coast League, a 21 1/3 innings scoreless inning streak of not allowing any runs at all, Bob.
That's cool. That's really good.
So Zach Albin, another Bethel High kid. We know our former Westerners pitching coach Sean Fesh, former fame of Bethel High School, minor league career for him. Anyways, let's go National League. The Nationals, as a matter of fact, 75 and 57. They actually fall behind the Dodgers. They had the best record in the National League coming into this week, but they got swept by the Fightin' Phils. What happened? After their 10-game winning streak, Nationals fall there to the Phils, 3 straight. So they are still doing pretty well, no real concerns. Atlanta 69 and 64. So they are looking good in the NL East. Your Mets not really making any.
They're just.
They're not making a charge.
We're just playing the season out.
They're not making a charge for a wild card or a division.
No.
Mets not going to do that.
If we're in the first place in the first week of the season.
Where's Mike McFadden when we need him? He didn't show up tonight. We thought with this late time slot we might see him here. He could give us some angst over his Mets.
My Mets need a complete overhaul.
We'll see if they can pull that off next year. Not sure what they're going to do.
Well, like your Red Sox, have a fire sale. Just get rid of everybody.
Fire sale, but the Red Sox have a fire sale and they bring in talent.
Yeah.
I mean, Yoenis Cespedes, Alan Craig, they got the Cuban defector. They got players on the move. We'll see what happens. But anyways, so Nationals still looking good in the NL East. Brewers holding off the Cardinals at 73-60. Cardinals at 71-61. So the Brewers could be, I mean, if they are able to do this, this would be wire to wire because they've been in first place all season long in the NL Central, even though the Cardinals have been breathing down their neck
and the Brewers,
for a good
it's been
month
a while
now.
Since the Brewers have been getting even in close to a playoff.
Well, no, Brewers have been a playoff team in recent years, Bob. They broke their string about 5 years ago, and they've been in the mix. And they've been in the playoffs. Last year they fell back out, but they were in, I think, 2 years in a row. So they're looking to get back in. Wild card, they would be looking pretty good. The Giants are 70-62 behind the Dodgers out west. Dodgers 76-58. So the Brewers, even if the Cardinals beat them, would be the first wild card with the Giants right behind them. And then Atlanta at 69-64, so they got, 4-game cushion on that as well. Pittsburgh, after they lost 5 straight, they are back in the mix, 69-64, winning 3 straight. All right, that's the baseball picture. As we get a little text message from Fatty Roots. We'll see if he wants to call. He never calls.
No.
It's almost football season. We got football coming up, major football preview next week. 203-792-4101 is the number anyone want to call. We will get into NFL preview next week. This week we're talking a little college football as UConn versus BYU at the Rent tomorrow night, a Friday night lights affair. I thought college football, don't they play on Saturdays, Bob?
Yeah, they're supposed to, but they start.
There's like 10 games tonight.
I know.
Thursday night kickoff. There's like 5 games on Friday night, including my Colorado State Rams as well in their rivalry against CU Friday night, 9 o'clock. So we got UConn and BYU, but it is the dawn of the Bob Diaco era, the new era, as Paul Pasqualoni was given his walking papers last season following a 3-year run of 10-22, not going to get it done. Bob Diaco, defensive coordinator out of Notre Dame, also was part of Cincinnati's coaching staff way back in 2009 when they made a run to the Sugar Bowl. We know the last time the Huskies were any good was in 2010 when they went to the Fiesta Bowl and the BCS Bowl, losing to Oklahoma. So here we go. They get BYU, which is a pretty big draw, 6.5-point underdog against BYU. They also have Boise State in week 3. So some big Mountain West teams coming in on the UConn schedule to start the season here early. And Diaco is all about the restoration project. He's not calling it a rebuilding project. He's calling restoration project, and he's very excited. He's a deeply religious man as well, so he's going big, heavy on positive, motivating factors, and he wants to erase the aura of losing over the last 3 seasons. He needs his teammates. He wants them to respect each other. That's one thing he wants, and he wants maturity out of these guys. That could go a long way. Talent will go even farther. Casey Cochran, high school football fans from the area know him from his championship days with Massick in the SWC. And he is getting the nod to start the season after he came on in the final 4 games of last year, winning 3 out of those 4 games, as a matter of fact, Bob. He did look pretty good, 63.9% completion percentage, threw over 1,100 yards in 4 games, 9 touchdown passes. So he looked good as they won down the stretch, and they got things moving in the right direction. They also have a bunch of guys returning on offense, which could be good. Could be bad considering they weren't a great team. But, continuity I think is good. Jeremy Davis, first UConn receiver since they moved into Division I to catch over 70 passes last season. He's back. Also, Deshaun Fox is back. Tight end Sean McClellan is back. And running back Max DiLorenzo is back. A lot of guys on defense back too. They'll have to be better because, Bob, they gave up over 30 points a game last year, which was not good. Also, they allowed big plays, 61 plays of over 20 yards. So they were giving up the big play. They're going to need to get that taken care of and get the defense shaped up.
Your Colorado State.
I'm not too sure what's going on. I won't do a preview on CSU until after I watch them tomorrow night as the Mountain West gets a lot of TV time on CBS Sports Network. I'm sure that game will be on tomorrow, 9 o'clock against CU. We'll see what happens. Second year of their new coach who came from Alabama, the former offensive coordinator. He's building something big out there. So I kind of like what I saw. They did win their bowl game last year in a thrilling comeback. So hopefully they can carry that over and knock off the Trustfundalos or the Buffaloes, as it were, out there in Colorado. All right, other games this weekend to watch in college football. Number 21, Texas A&M versus number 9, South Carolina tonight. So that's actually a pretty big game to kick things off this evening. And Boise, if you want to preview how they will be, as they are going to be playing UConn in 2 weeks, they're playing number 18 Mississippi tonight as well. Saturday, the defending champion FSU, number 1, they are preseason ranked number 1, playing Oklahoma State Saturday night at 8. Bama comes back in ranked number 2. They play West Virginia. That could be a pretty good game Saturday at 3:30. West Virginia usually has a decent football team. So we'll see if Bama is ready after they came up lame down the stretch last year, losing their final 2 games. Not good for Bama. They're not accustomed to that. They did not make the championship game. And remember, Bob, this is the first year of a playoff. Final 4 teams will be playing a playoff, not the BCS Bowl in college football this year.
That's right. I forgot about that.
They didn't get us 8 teams, but it's a start. Right. 4 teams in a playoff. We'd like to see 8 teams in that mix, but that's it. Rounding out the top 10 or so, some teams of note. Oregon is number 3. Number 4 is Oklahoma. Ohio State, even though their QB is out for the year, they still come in preseason ranked number 5. I think Michigan State, after their strong finish last year, could be the Big Ten team to move up into the ranks and knock Ohio State out of that picture. Auburn, who made it to the championship game so close to winning it all, thought they were going to pull that up. They're number 6. UCLA getting some love this year at number 7.
What about Notre Dame or Temple?
I didn't see where Notre Dame was preseason ranked. Those were the teams I was looking at early. We'll get more into college football and our big preseason NFL football preview next week.
Speaking about NFL,
Giants at Pats tonight, 7:30. Preseason wraps up. Can it end soon enough? Not really. After this week, it'll be for real. Yeah. Your Giants at Lions next week. Home for the Cardinals your first 2 weeks. How you feeling about your Giants, bro?
I hope they come back. I hope we can do something.
Patriots start 2 games on the road. Well, you beat up on the Jets. I was happy to see that after the Jets were chirping away.
Sexy wasn't
every year. How many times do we got to hear it? The Giants say it's a Giants town. The Jets say we're the new kids on the block. It's our town. And then the Giants go and whoop them up on preseason. Yeah. Beat him down 35-24 last week.
So what's Vic going to do? Nothing?
He'll be the backup to Geno Smith. We'll see what happens. I mean, they got a couple of weapons for Geno. Not really in the receiving game, although Eric Decker, I suppose, is a weapon. Chris Johnson. You wonder if Eric Decker is going to be wondering, where's Peyton Manning?
Right.
Last year I was catching passes from Peyton Manning. I had Demaryius Thomas and Wes Welker. Yeah. Oh, by the way, Wes Welker, 3rd concussion in his last 9 games last week. Wes Welker. What's going on with the Broncos? They could be in trouble, I think. Yeah. Demaryius Thomas is going to be a one-man show. No Decker. Welker, I think he's... 3 concussions, Bob.
That's pretty bad. Usually after a 3rd one, they tell you bye.
I mean, they brought in, Emmanuel Sanders from Pittsburgh? He's nobody. I don't know. The Broncos receiving core isn't as good as it once was last year.
Yeah, I heard.
But Decker is here for the Jets. Right. Chris Johnson also is here for the Jets. So that'll be interesting. Patriots, first 2 games on the road, at Miami and at Minnesota. And the Jets start at home against the Raiders. And then they are at the Packers. So they got
so that could be a 2 losses.
Well, Raiders, we don't know. They're not great. I mean, they got Matt Schaub out of Houston.
Hey, anything's possible.
So we'll see what happens with the Raiders. The Raiders. Jets are finishing up their preseason against Philly. The Eagles look to be the talk of the NFC East so far from what I have heard. Patriots also did make big news this week. 6-time Pro Bowler, one of the best guards ever to play the game according to Bill Belichick. He's gone.
Yeah.
Logan Mankins traded to the Tampa Bay Bucks as they bring in big pass-catching tight end Tim White from Tampa Bay as they're trying to get back to that 2 tight end system. All right, U.S. Open is underway. The Connecticut Open finished up last week with Petra Kvitova winning it all. She knocked off Camilla Giorgi, the Italian, who then proceeded to get knocked out in the first round. I was having high hopes. She looked like a good player. Yeah. Sloane Stephens, the American, she gets knocked out in the second round. Not good. It's really mostly about the women's side in tennis right now. Rafa is out with injury. Will it be Roger versus Novak again? They had that great Wimbledon final this year. Roger's on the other side of the draw of Novak and Murray, so it looks like he will be smooth sailing. Gael Monfils could give him trouble, maybe David Ferrer. But I think Roger could make a run to the final again. What? I thought he was the better player in that match in Wimbledon against Novak, but Novak somehow came up with the goods.
Yeah. How about this new girl, 15?
And then CC Bellis, the 15-year-old American with the big first-round win. She plays tonight. Look for that under the lights. The U.S. Open always gets a good primetime event. So that was a great, nice, exciting thing. Can she get 2 wins?
Yeah.
15-year-old, pretty good.
Okay.
The Canadian Emily Bouchard, she is U.S. women's tennis is looking to make a star out of her. Be nice to see her break through. Simona Halep, that's my girl.
Okay. So,
I see what she does. Sharapova's there, Wozniacki's there, and of course the Williamson Venus in the third round for the first time in 3 years. We are back live next week with our football preview. Thanks for tuning in. Happy Labor Day. Enjoy some time. Enjoy some cold beverages. We'll see you next week.